Yeah, had a great workout here at Willpower. As you can see, real kind of hardcore and focused weightlifting gym. Big shout out to the guys, Jordan, Justin, and Tom, for letting me come down and film and get a workout here. It's raw, it's real. There's a real sense of commitment and drive here, which I love. Yeah, I've probably been lifting for, good 20 years now, and seriously, and by that I mean having done my first competition in probably 2005. So it's kind of an interesting story. So for those of you who don't know, I was into mountain biking at sort of a young age, 13, 14, and was fooling around on my bike, fractured my clavicle, which is up here. Had my arm on a sling for about 5 weeks, and when you're sort of 15 years old, that's not fun. And the doctor said, look, to build up your strength again, you should start lifting some weights. And little did he know kind of where that would lead to. Started lifting some weights at a young age. My dad got the old York bench and some Sandfield dumbbells in the garage, and I just fell in love with the ability to kind of transform your own body. I think the real drive that's stayed with me all of these years is that it's ever changing. The work is never done. It's like I said, you're constantly rebuilding yourself. You're focusing on different goals, and it's a very personal goal. It's not like a team sport in the sense like you play football or rugby and there's 9, 10 other players. It's just you, and when you're kind of going in under that barbell to squat a weight, your sole focus with that is lifting that weight, moving it, and it gets exciting. Certainly in the early years when you're trying to pile on those weights and you're lifting the heaviest weight that you can, it's rewarding, and not just in the sense of a physical presence. It's rewarding that you can train yourself to do something. You can really see the results because you're adding the weights on and you're achieving the repetitions. There's a great sense of pride with having kind of done this. You could try telling the 15, 16-year-old me not to go crazy. Would he listen? Probably not. So I think the great thing that I see now that wasn't really about when I started was the presence of social media. Access to information, videos, information from all over the world. So it's much easier now to kind of hone in on someone that you look up to, you appreciate their physique, you maybe like their teaching or training style, and it's really accessible to get that information. For me, none of that was about. I sort of came into this before YouTube was even a thing. So I was always looking, watching, asking questions, reading, tearing pages out of magazines, building up my own folder and sort of compiling all of this information. But I'd say to the younger me certainly, which is a lot of the motivation, because when I was young and I had these aspirations of sort of being this person several years ahead, or one day getting into a magazine or stepping up on stage, having done all of that now, I would tell that 15-year-old me, like, go big, aim high, go hard, and you say never give up, but don't. It took me several years before I got my first magazine appearance, and even years after that before I got my first cover. And had I known that when I was 15, 16, that might have seemed like a lifetime. But I'm so grateful that I stuck at it. Of course, the problem now with all of this social media and the ease to access of information is that there's so much information that can contradict itself. You might follow one person that says do this, and another person that you equally admire and follow says don't do this. And so it becomes really confusing, especially at a young age if you haven't done it before, as to which way might be the right way. And there isn't necessarily a single most right way, but going back to when I was first starting out and many of the other people in the early days, I don't want to call it trial and error. I want to call it maybe trial and adjustment. So you have to go, you're not going to be given the holy grail to fitness or bodybuilding or weightlifting, powerlifting, and just sort of follow these set instructions and get to the top like that. Some people might if they're blessed with great genetics. I wasn't. I had to really work at it and have to continue to work at it to maintain and hold. So take all of this information with a pinch of salt, as my mom would say, and apply it and document it and test it, and then you constantly go back and refine it. So one of the things I've really, especially in my later years of lifting, has sort of been refined on knowing where my boundaries are, knowing where my limits are, really understanding my body, so that when I'm effectively warming up for a big movement, I'm doing so taking the best care to prime my muscles, my ligaments, my joints, which also falls under good nutrition, certain supplementation, good rest and recovery, especially when you're young and maybe more so now, seeing all of this media where guys are lifting these huge weights, or they're pumping up and they look incredible. It's someone that you admire. It's easy to follow. Injury, touch wood, I've been pretty fortunate staying injury-free, but I think also that's because I've grown in small steps, baby steps. I haven't looked at a weight or a particular set and just gone crazy with the weight. I've sort of known where my limits are. I've been continuously pushing the envelope, which has meant small progression, small steps over a period of time, but in doing so, that's really allowed my muscles and my body to grow with that, as opposed to just sort of a quick space of time. And you might see people with stretch marks, whether they've lost a lot of weight or they've perhaps gained weight in a short amount of time. That was never something that I wanted to do. It was always a very aesthetic thing, so that I had the physique I wanted, the look, but I wanted to maintain a fit and healthy appeal to it as well. I would not put this sport, if you want to call it, as a sort of a glitz and glam. Maybe the final hours and sort of when you're on stage or once you've done a photo shoot, and that's what we tend to show people, that's sort of our best foot forwards. I put it this way, unlike, let's say, a sportsman who plays rugby or cricket, his skill set is in his ability to do that. Isn't necessarily a 24/7 commitment. So, he can perform during training or during a game. Outside of that, he can maybe relax with eating more of what he wants and taking time off. With this sort of bodybuilding, fitness type lifestyle, you've got to more or less be on it, at least 6 days a week. You've got to have your meals, you've got to eat right, you've got to watch what you put in, you've got to get enough rest. It's a continual kind of turnover. That can take its toll, and it can take its toll if you're also trying to put time in with family, relationships, work. I've been fortunate with the type of work I do. It's enabled me the luxury of freedom and time to be able to work out more or less when I want and then put my work aside. But I'm also aware that people who kind of work in a corporate job, they might have to get up super early, or they might have to come down to the gym late at night and put those hours in. That's a huge commitment, but I will tell you this, it's rewarding, it's worth the time, and there's a huge spillover effect from that doesn't just portray your physical aspect. It can help improve relationships because you've been more committed, you've been disciplined, you can focus your goals and targets. So it is a hugely rewarding lifestyle if you're at least prepared to understand the commitment that you need to put into it. Yeah, in sort of, certainly in today's society, there's a lot of talk, and rightly so, about mental health. And we always focused on our physical health. You gotta eat right, you gotta exercise. For me, coming down to especially a place like this where you're not distracted by phones or social media or emails or anything like that, this gives me space to really think and be at one with myself. So when I'm lifting, certainly when I'm under a bar, you really have to big yourself up, because you can't be getting under a bar or picking up this weight and having any self-doubt. I think that's what it really comes down to. I started on this journey for self-confidence, and in doing so, it helps you negate any of this self-doubt and kind of be more assured and just be okay with who you are, whether it's how you look, how other people perceive you. You know what your abilities are, and that alone, I think, gives you great power to be able to just cope with things better. I'm not about to give this up anytime soon. I love it, even if all of social media went and my whole work changed. This is kind of what gets me up in the morning. It's the pulse of my daily life. I still think the best of me is yet to come. I've hit that maturity now where my training is I can recover quickly from it, and I can still make improvements, and I can do that with more pinpoint accuracy than when I was younger. So I think the best is yet to come.